Biggest story coming from India, where Finance Minister Arun Jaitley has today met heads of public sector banks to discuss the issue of non-performing assets or NPAs. FM Jaitley said the public sector banks have made a stable operating profit of rupees 1.5 lakh crore in 2016 and 17 and a net profit of rupees 570 crore after provisioning. Now, after the bankers meet, FM added that there is a challenge on credit growth. Speedy resolution for all pending NPA cases is also required. With ordinance in place, Finance Minister Jaitley also said RBI is at a fairly advanced stage of preparing a list of borrowers where NPA or non-performing assets resolution is required under the insolvency law, and action on this front is expected soon. The ordinance was promulgated last month, amending the Banking Regulation Act 1949 to empower the Reserve Bank of India to resolve the thorny issue of non-performing assets or bad loans. Jaitley left no one in doubt that the centre will not be part of a state's fiscal leverage in waiving farm loans, and cost has to be borne by the states. This assumes significance against the backdrop of farm debt waiver announced by Maharashtra government yesterday, even as farmers in Madhya Pradesh were up in arms demanding relief.
The RBI is at a fairly advanced stage of preparing a list of those debtors where a resolution is required through the IBC process. And you will shortly be hearing about it. I can tell you we are actively working in that direction. I can't give you further details because some of these details are price sensitive. But you can take it that there is a movement going on in that direction.
Moving forward, Airbnb will now be able to operate in Japan without the risk of running into regulatory hurdles after the government passed a law that sets out rules for home sharing. Japan's upper house passed a law that lets private homes rent out space to paying guests while limiting total stays to 180 nights a year. The law requires providers of such accommodation to register with local government and lets local authorities impose their own restrictions. Airbnb, valued at $31 billion, has found a more receptive audience in Japan compared with the clashes it had with municipal government in New York, Barcelona and its hometown of San Francisco. A tourism boom has cut into Japan's supply of available hotel rooms and helped make the Japan Airbnb's fastest growing market. The number of visitors from overseas will probably continue to reach records as Japan prepares to host World Rugby Cup in 2019 and Olympic Games the following year. Moving to Thailand, where Thai regulators plan to impose financial penalties on Facebook and other companies with video sharing platforms if they fail to swiftly remove what they deem to be illegal content. The new framework would give authorities the power to immediately demand the removal of offensive material without waiting for a court order. Facebook said it regularly receives requests from government to limit access to content on the internet when they believe it violates their laws. In Thailand, it has previously restricted access to content alleged to have violated many laws concerning the royal family. Now, Thailand's military-run government in power since 2014 coup has faced criticism for clamping down on free speech ahead of elections planned for next year. In particular, efforts to restrict discussions of king activities have led to tighter scrutiny of social media platforms like Facebook, YouTube and even Instagram. Now moving to Qatar crisis, where Qatar, which was importing 80% of its food requirements from bigger Gulf neighbors before the diplomatic rift led by Saudi Arabia hit the tiny Emirates. Now the isolation has choked country's food supply, forcing Doha to look for other countries to fill its domestic food demand. Iran has now come out to help Doha and sent 5 cargo planes filled with food items. Now, local food producers too are working day and night to produce extra items for the people. Now, Turkey, which has maintained good relations with Qatar as well as several of its Gulf neighbors, called for lifting of a blockade on Doha. President of Turkey has vowed to supply food items to Qatar and denounced allegations that it supports terror. Now, Russian Foreign Minister has also called for Qatar and its neighboring countries to end their ongoing disputes through dialogue. He also said that any contradiction should be resolved at the negotiating table.
So we have put 2 shifts instead of 1 shift to increase the production, and also we stop exporting. We used to export, so we concentrate all our production to our local market.
Çeşitli hizmetlerle ilgili kurulmuş olan vakıfları terör örgütü olarak ilan ediyorlar. Olmaz böyle bir şey. Olmaz böyle bir şey. O vakıfları ben de tanıyorum. Ben de biliyorum. Ve Katar'ın bugüne kadar teröre destek verdiğine ben şahit olmadım.
And staying with Qatar, investors in Qatari stocks, bonds and currency forwards were saddled with losses this week as the country was thrust into epicenter of an unprecedented spat with its neighbors. Country's stock market shrank by about $11 billion in value on Tuesday, the most since 2010 after Middle Eastern countries including Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates cut ties with the Gulf nation. Country's most liquid bonds tumbled during the week as its sovereign rating was cut and bets against its currency surged. Now, contracts to protect against a potential default are now at a higher level than those of Peru and Slovenia. Qatar's main benchmark finished the week down 7.1%, its worst weekly performance since December 14. And from Qatar to Alibaba, where Alibaba Cloud, the cloud computing arm of Chinese e-commerce company Alibaba, will open its first data center by early next year in India, which has the world's second largest internet using population. The data center will be set up in Mumbai by March 31st, 2018. Another one will come up in Jakarta. The entry of Alibaba in cloud computing in India will add to the fierce competition in the country, which already has players like Amazon and Microsoft. Alibaba has said India is a potential market for cloud computing, which allows users to store and access data on the internet rather than the hard drive of a computer and server, which are more prone to cyber attacks. Besides Alibaba, other tech giants Google and Amazon already have data centers spread across the globe.
Inside.
And protesting against the unilateral decision by the government to roll out daily revision of fuel prices nationally, petrol pump owners in India have decided not to purchase fuel starting from June 16. Though the associations are not terming it as a strike, they claim that no purchase from June 16 onwards means petrol pumps are likely to go dry from the day their stocks get over. According to industry figures, India has about 57,000 fuel retail outlets, out of which state-run Indian Oil Corporation, Bharat Petroleum Corporation and Hindustan Petroleum Corporation have a combined network of close to 53,000 outlets. After starting it as a pilot project in some major cities, daily revision of fuel prices will be a reality now in all Indian cities. Dynamic pricing of fuel, a daily revision of fuel policy, is already quite prevalent in many advanced nations. We are joined by our colleague Jessica Taneja for more on this. Jessica, what are you hearing on this particular, and can we term this overall non-cooperation as strike from the petrol owner side?
Well, Sumit, as what we know at the moment is Mr. Ajay Bansal, who is the president of all India Petroleum Dealers, remember even earlier he had called out for strikes against the state implementation of such prices. And in fact, he says that he's not in fact looking for calling a strike, but he's just terming it as a no purchase, deal till their concerns are in fact met. And he says that they are ready to roll out daily fuel pricing across till the retail outlets. In fact, automated, and they said this, this needs to have a transparency. It needs to address the transparency issues. And further, oil companies have called upon dealers for a meeting, in fact, today, and they're in fact going to discuss their concerns over daily price revisions as well. And what the association is in fact seeking to do is to postpone the plan's implementation. And the dealers sort of are keeping an open option of protesting, including not purchasing the fuel if the meeting does not address their concerns. So this is exactly what we've been hearing from at least the All India Petroleum Dealers Association, who might call a strike or not, depending on how the meeting goes on.
Well, thank you, Jessica, for getting us all these details. And moving on, the southwest monsoon is making a steady advance into Maharashtra and West Bengal states of India, and the Met Department has predicted a good week ahead. The Indian Meteorological Department said monsoon is in active phase and has reached Mumbai, Mahabaleshwar and several parts of Konkan region apart from Bijapur district in North Karnataka. The coming week will be very good for the advance of monsoon on the western side and East India. The IMD last week upgraded its initial monsoon forecast from 96% of the long period average to 98%, which comes in the range of normal rainfall. The monsoon has reached Kerala on May 30, 2 days ahead of its normal schedule as well. And who but automakers in India are bullish over timely arrival of monsoon here. Companies are saying that they are expecting a big boost to rural sales and also sales in semi-urban areas riding on bumper crop harvest post-normal monsoon. Let's listen in what you have to say.
With the monsoon, if the economy picks up, we are hopeful and very bullish that our sales will also pick up. But we are, as a company, more dependent and more attuned to the long-term growth plans. And the used car market, the multi-brand used car market in India, actually is in a very big stage of growth.
The monsoon, whatever signals or whatever advance notice we have, the monsoon is going to be good this year. And the rural economy and the upcountry economy, I won't call it rural, is looking up. So it should augur well for the industry.
Monsoons are good for the economy of the country. The economy is good, of course, affordability increase, so we think it will do well. I must also add, in terms of monsoons being good, this bike is going to be enjoyed more and more because we are bringing in the riding modes, which is both for road and rain. So in terms of the bike, it's going to be fun in rains to ride as well.
And staying with the auto space in India, General Motors, which has decided to stop selling vehicles here from year-end, has given its employees here less than a month to opt for a voluntary separation scheme as it starts winding down operations in the country. Now, General Motors has offered compensation of 45 days salary for every year of completed year of service or part thereof in excess of 6 months in normal cases. On the other hand, for those who are retiring or near retirement, GM has offered employees compensation of monthly salary multiplied by the remaining months of service till normal age of retirement. The minimum compensation payable eligibility shall be 3 months' salary. Nearly 250 people in marketing, sales, finance and administration are likely to be given golden handshakes by September itself by GM. In case of Halol plant in Gujarat, where GM has ceased production already since April, GM has come out with a fresh VRS or voluntary retirement scheme. Well, GM India is shutting its shop here and will stop selling cars in India. And to the biggest tax reform of country, India, the Goods and Services Tax Council has revised the rates of 66 items after a meeting here yesterday. Tax rates on certain kitchen items like pickles and mustard sauce, as well as movie tickets costing up to ₹100 have been lowered. Now, kitchen use items like pickles, mustard sauce and murabba will attract 12% GST as against 18% proposed earlier. The council also lowered GST rates on children's drawing books to nil from 12%. Computer printers will attract 18% tax as against 28% earlier. GST on insulin and agarbatti has also been lowered to 5%, while school bags will attract tax of 18%. The next meeting of the council will be held on June 18. Now let's go to market segment straight. Indian markets have closed down overall day in red. Indian markets in the morning also were in red only. They have closed in red. Last week they were making good records as far as markets were concerned. But this week they have started weak on a, we can say that they are under pressure as far as overall Indian markets are concerned. Going forward, there are only few issues that bothers them. Otherwise, everything looks under control. If you look at figures here, Sensex was down 0.53% today, while Nifty was down 0.54% today. To talk more on markets, we are joined by our guest, Mr. Suyaj Bhatt, economist and professor of finance, WION School. Well, good evening to you, Mr. Bhatt. First of all, we would like to ask you, how do you see trade happening in Indian market over the rest of the week?
So, good evening. There are multiple triggers. One is the market globally has gone down, one because of the UK election results that have come, and which was quite disappointing, and which also indicates that there's not much strength that Britain has when it negotiates its deal while it does the Brexit talk. Second was, as you are aware, the Maharashtra government has waived off the farm loan up to 30,000 crores, which has definitely sent a wrong message, because you could see that in the BankX Nifty, which has gone down by 2% today. And this trend basically started from the UP government, which waived off close to 35,000 crores worth of debt. And now I think still, if this continues, then I think the banking sector specifically would be under tremendous pressure. And now I think this week major triggers that we have to look at is one is the interest rate. What tomorrow you will have the IIP data which is going to be released, and how the market reacts to that data. That's something to be seen.
And Mr. Bhatt, US Fed is definitely going to announce its decision this week as to what to happen with the interest rates. How do you see this impacting the overall global and Indian market over the next few days?
Right. So if the US continues with its stance of increasing interest rate, then it definitely is a signal which negative signal for emerging market, because you need to understand, if I am able to get 7% or 6% risk-free return in a global market, then I don't need to actually invest in a emerging market and take so much of risk. So keeping this in mind, if the Fed continues the stance of increasing interest rate, then the flight of global capital, you can continue that seeing, and we'll see also our currency reacting to that.
And Mr. Bhatt, coming back to the story, India growth story. Now, monsoon we are hearing is going to be better than normal. What are the chances that the overall market will touch 35,000, Sensex will touch 35,000, and Nifty will cross 10,000 very soon, banking on this bullishness?
Right. So in long term, this is all good, because as I said, we have a momentum which is there in place. But seeing 10,000 plus on Nifty it's not far away, just 200, 300 points. But then from there onwards, building momentum may be tough, because we are globally in a not a very growing kind of a scenario where all global economies are facing some or the other, whether it's on either side. And you can't be the only economy which continues to grow at 7 to 8% without any change in stance. So as I said, one more stance that the government needs to take is if the central bank cuts the interest rate, that is something which would be seen as a positive trigger. But otherwise, it seems that we are at the peak of the market.
And Mr. Bhatt, if we talk of certain important sectors in India, let's talk about IT sector. Over there are many problems. We heard Infosys CEO Vishal Sikka denying that there are no layoffs happening at Infosys. But what is your overall assessment of IT sector in India and the stocks that are linked to it?
So IT, gone are the days that you can see 20-25% EBITDA on IT sector stocks. That clearly is gone, and it's a sector which has given a kind of double-digit kind of a return for almost 2 decades now. I don't see that kind of returns in near future, at least for next 4 to 5 years. And it definitely is under pressure, not only because of the global headwinds, but also you need to understand all these companies, none of them are into product business. They are all into service business, and service business definitely is going to be affected by how many visas you get, what kind of contracts you get. So so that's something which is a concern and which is going to remain. So it cannot be said that you will get double-digit kind of return on IT sector. But yes, the only sector that has seen a positive in this market is one is the India consumption story, and second is pharma. These are the only two which seems to be outweighing or would be outweighing the market for next 2 to 3 years, or even in near coming quarters.
And what about auto sector, Mr. Bhatt? Is there some steam left over there? Do you think that?
Yes. So GST, I think, would have a temporary kind of a positive effect on GST, and you can see that in the last month's May, auto sector clocked in 10%, growth in the sales, which is the highest by far by Indian auto sector. So I definitely see GST bringing some kind of cheers to the auto sector, and then we have the festive season coming in. So I think next 1 or 2 quarters would be good for auto and auto ancillary.
And if we talk of telecom stocks, what do you think about telecom? Telecom sector is already reeling under debt. What do you think about telecom sector in India?
Right. So that is one sector which has really helped in growing the economy tremendously. In last 2 decades, we have seen. I told this. I popularly say in India, FMCG company sells 45 crore toothpaste in a year, whereas you have 112 crore mobile phone connections. So people talk on mobile phone more than they brush their teeth. So that's the kind of penetration that market has seen. But currently, if you see the sector, there are a lot of challenges, right from higher spectrum prices that they have paid, plus the debt and the price war. We need to understand that Jio and the kind of pricing that they have brought in is really putting challenge on a lot of these telecom players.
And question to you, Mr. Bhatt, will be about the global markets. From here on, what do you see? What factors will impact global markets movements?
Yeah, so global markets, I believe the major trigger is still going to be the same. The Federal Reserve, what happens to their interest rate stance. And second is the ECB meeting which is going to come, and the Euro negotiations about Brexit, because Brexit is going to definitely shape up. I mean, they have taken a call of exiting EU, but the kind of government that they have got, I don't think so they'll have enough room to play around. So these are 2 to 3 major things which would affect the global market. I'm not talking about Middle East and oil because they are in a comfortable situation right now. Even if there's some escalation which happens there, the energy prices are already under control. So there's not much that needs to be worried about from that front.
All right, Mr. Bhatt, thank you so much for getting us all this perspective on global as well as international market.